Okay, so for this week's guitar lesson, we have a standalone composition. This is one of those acoustic blues that you can play by yourself. Even though I'm playing it on acoustic guitar, you could do this on electric guitar if that's what you have. But you don't need to get a jam track out or any of those kinds of extra variables that can just sort of slow you down. You just grab your guitar, grab a pick, and play along. Now, if you're not a pick player, if you're a finger style player, you can do this finger style, obviously. The point of this whole lesson or the whole composition is really to understand the notes. And we're going to talk about each note that I'm playing and how it relates to the chord shape and how you can use these notes and these licks and these ideas and things that you want to do going forward. So if you want to improvise and take some of this material, you'll be able to do that. Or if you want to write your own material and sit down and be more methodical about it. Either way, I want you to understand the why behind everything. So you're not just memorizing. That's the point. So you can take this stuff and just really kind of go with it and steal it. That's what we all do. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to go through the first half. If you'd like to learn the second half, download the tab PDF file and also access the on-screen tab viewer, which has the video and the tablature on the screen at the same time. It's interactive. You can slow down the playback. You can loop sections. It's a really great way to learn. There's no talking in it. It's just the song. You can get that extra material for this lesson by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP569. Okay, before we jump into the specific notes, let me just mention the chord structure. It's a pretty standard blues, pretty much a standard 12-bar blues kind of thing. It's played in the key of A. There is a little bit of an intro, which I'll talk through in a minute. But let me just go over the chords for this. So we're playing the key of A. Our one chord is an A. Then it goes to an A7, which is your tension chord, and it brings you to your 4 chord, which is a D7, and then we go back to the A. So it's 1 to the 4, back to the 1. They call that a quick change. It's pretty standard in blues. And we stay on the 1, we stay on the A. And then it goes to the 5 chord, which is our E7. But then it goes to the B7, and then back to the E7. Now I say the B7. There actually is no B7 in the key of A. So why would this B7 work? Well, because B7 is the 5 chord of E7, and E7 is the 5 chord of the song. That may sound confusing, but I promise you it's a very simple little premise. It's called a secondary dominant chord. I'll explain more about that as we get into the lesson. But that's something that's going on here. And if you like the sound of that, it's kind of got a gospel, sounds like a gospel organ or gospel piano thing to me. You can always do that in whatever style of music you're playing. You can inject, if you're playing a chord, you can play that chord's 5 chord and then go back to that chord. It's a really cool, very simple little thing. Okay, so let's talk about this intro. So it doesn't start directly with the song. I could have just went right into it that way, but I always like to have a little intro. And so it's kind of a struggle. Every time, if you've ever tried writing your own composition like this, you'll see what I mean. It's like, how do you start the thing? Well, a real simple way to do this, and this will be your first little takeaway idea, is just start with a 5 chord. Whatever key the song is in, so if we're playing in the key of A, our 5 chord is an E. So I just play an E. You could just play the chord. You could go, and then you go into the 1 chord. So what that does is it creates a tension, and then it releases when you play the 1 chord. That's all music is. If you just, boil it down, it's just tensions and releases. So you just create the ultimate tension. You play the 5 chord, and then you release it to the 1 chord. So that's one thing you could do. Now, what I did was then went, so I built up to the 5 chord. I didn't just start on the 5 chord. I started with the A, and then played an A sharp diminished 7, and then played the E. So it kind of walked up. The bass goes. That's just one technique. You can remember this and apply it to things that you want to play in the future. But here's how I'm playing it. I'm just playing an A chord down in first position. I'm just arpeggiating the chord. Strings 5, 4, 3, and 2. And I've got my 3 fingers crammed in. I'm not barring it. You could do it that way, but I'm doing it this way because the next chord is this A sharp diminished 7. Now, if you've heard that sound, There's a song that's pretty common, and I'm not even going to say it. I'll let you leave a comment and you tell me what song that's from. It's definitely a very noticeable sound. So that's my A. To play this A sharp diminished 7, you keep your ring finger on the 2nd fret, 2nd string, but put your middle finger on the 2nd fret, 4th string, and then put your index finger on the 1st fret, 5th string. You've got the open G string as well. So that's the sharp diminished 7, and then you play an E chord. But you don't start with the 6th string, you start with the 5th string like this. Actually, I played an E7. So I put my pinky down 3rd fret, 2nd string. And to me, that's just a perfect little tension, little setup for the song. And then I played the low 6th string. And after that, we go into the song. Let's listen to that, and then we'll talk about what's going on. Okay, so I started with this leg. Right? We'll talk about the timing of this as well. I'll talk about like sort of when to count this in or how to count this in. But these notes are pretty much all just A major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. So I'm just giving you that so that you can get your bearings. Once you can kind of see where we're at, this is going to be a lot easier. So here's my A chord, right? First position A chord, and here's major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. Right? You know that shape. And if you've never done this before, connect that major pentatonic scale, pattern 1, to your A shape. Or actually, this is really more the G shape. That's probably a better way to say it. It's this triad, though, that you use one finger for. So if I was playing it over a C, for example, there's the triad. Here's my C chord using the G shape. There's my C major pentatonic scale. Hopefully that connects for somebody out there, and you start to see it in that way. Okay, so A major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. Now the first note I play is actually not in A major pentatonic scale. It's actually in A minor pentatonic scale. So I went like this. And so it's got that kind of weird sound, that dissonant thing. So you got the flat third with the major third. But I love the sound of that. And so what I'm doing is I'm barring the first 2 strings on the 2nd fret. And then I've got my ring finger on the 5th fret, 3rd string. Played that minor pentatonic scale note just to blues it up a little bit. And then we're going to go string 2 and 1. And then we're going to come down here to the 5th fret, 2nd string and go 5, 2. And then watch this. We're going to come down to the 3rd string and do a quick slide down to from the 5th fret to the 4th fret. 2nd fret. So we have, and then we're going to come down to the 4th fret, 4th string, and then that's our 1. That's where the song actually starts. That's the 5th string open, which is our A note. So if you're counting this, you would, this note, when we get to here, that's the 3. So think of this as like a pickup measure. So we have 1 and 2, 3, 4. And then here's your 1, 1. So let me do that again slowly. 1 and 2, 3, 1. Okay? You don't have to be super scientific about that. You don't have to sit and count it and get out a metronome. Just know this. This is the 1. And once you can get to the 1, you can do whatever you want. You can noodle around even longer than that if you want. Just try and establish the rhythm once you get to that open 5th string. So you could do, see, as soon as I get to that, that's the 1. It doesn't matter what you do before it. Okay, so what I'm playing there is I'm playing an A chord, and I've got my index finger barring the first 4 strings on the 2nd fret. So we play that open 5th string, and then I've got that bar, but I put my pinky up here on the 5th fret, 1st string, like that. And that's another way to make an A chord. And if you've never done this, you've got to get used to this. This is used all the time in the blues because you can go from here down to your 7 chord. It's a really cool thing. You're just keeping the bar there. So that's the root. That's the root note. That's my A note. Then I come down to the flat 7, like that. The way that I played that, and this would be in the G shape if you're thinking cage system, like where are we at? This would be in the G area. So we have the 5th string, strum the chord, back to the open 5th string, and then we're going to play the chord again twice. So it's, and the way I did it was I picked with my pick on the 5th string and I plucked on the top strings. I think I only played maybe strings, well, 1 and 2. Like that. 1, 2, 3. And then you come to that A7 chord. Now you could play all 3 strings. I think that's how I put it in the tab. It doesn't really matter, but you're trying to hit this chord and this chord. So you can strum it too. Now after that I went to get to the 4 chord. It's a really cool little lick. That lick is just a major pentatonic scale. We're up in pattern 2. All right? So it's a slide up to the 6th fret 3rd string, and then we go to the 2nd string and play 5, 7. So we have, and then we slide back down from that 6th fret down to the 4th fret on the 3rd string. So we have, and then down to the 2nd fret 3rd string. And then, watch this, we come down to the 4th string and play 2, 3, 4, and then open 4th string, which is your D note, right? So since we're playing a D note, we've got, you can take your hand off the fretboard and reposition it. So I could go and play a D up here, could play a D up here. This is why you have so many blues songs in the key of A or D, is because you've got the 1 chord, which is open, your 4 chord, which is open, and your 5 chord, which is open. In each of those situations, I can reposition my hand without having to fret something. So that's a little filler. And this is a little chromatic walk up. We're still in A major pentatonic scale, but that's the chromatic note there, each note along the way. And then we go to our D7. Actually, the way I played it was, I played it like that. Open 4th, 3rd string, strum strings 1 and 2, or 1, 2, and 3. So it's like, and then we go back to our A chord. Now after that 4 chord, which is our D7, we're going to go back to the 1 chord, which is our A. So instead of me playing some A stuff here, which I've already done, I'm going to move up into another position. I'm going to play some A stuff up here. Still an A chord, we're just going to now be using the E shape. We're going this back to the caged thing, caged reference. So we're going to play this up here. Now this is all stuff you know. There's nothing in this that is weird or mysterious or out of key or anything. So what we're doing is we're thinking about our A chord here, right? Using the E shape. And if we look at the top 3 strings of that, we've got this little triad here. Now if I take that triad and I break that down even further and I just look at 2 of the strings, like these 2 for example, this little harmonized 3rd, I can take that, slide down a fret, so that I can come into it. So this is what I like to do with these triads. I break them down into 2 notes and I slide them around. So you can go. You can do all this cool stuff using just a chord that you already know. So that's what I did. I came into it from here. So I started here, middle finger on the 5th fret 3rd string, index finger on the 4th fret 2nd string, and then I slid up into position, into my A chord. And then played strings 1 and 2, which is out of that triad as well. So, and then I played this, which would be strings 2 and 3 on the 7th fret. So that would be like out of your D chord. So this is another kind of gospel piano move. If you're hanging out on a chord for extended period of time, you can play that chord and its 4 chord and then back to the chord. So you can go A, D, back to an A. Or I could do, like I said sort of at the beginning, I could play a chord and its 5 chord. I can go A, E, A. Either one of those are creating a tension. One is just more intense, like going to the 5 chord is more intense than going to the 4 chord. So we have, now after that I played the open 5th string, played this, that, and then back to this. So this is just an A7. I'm just getting into my A7 like this. So the way I'm doing that is I'm borrowing the first 4 strings on the 5th fret. With that, I start with the open 5th string. Then I take the bar there and play that, play strings 4, 3, and 2. But you hammer on with your middle finger to the 6th fret 3rd string. So it's like this. The key is this, that flat 7. It gives you that bluesy version as opposed to this. Hear the difference? It's subtle, but it makes a big difference there. So I'm just getting into that A7. And then I'll hit the open 5th string again, come back and play that D chord. This time I'm going to play strings 2, 3, and 4. It's a D chord over A. It's that same gospel mood that I just explained. And then I come back and do the hammer on over the A7 there. So now we're going to go to the 5 chord. So after this, I played this little lick there. That lick would be out of my A minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. That's where I'm thinking about. But I mix in some A major pentatonic scale, pattern 2 notes in with that. So I'm kind of blending those two. But here's where it starts. It's on the 8th fret 1st string. Kind of push that sharp. You don't want to just hit it and let it lay flat. You want to hit that and bend it a little bit. And then we go 5th fret 1st string. And then we come down to the 8th fret 2nd string. And then watch this. So it's going to go 8, 7, 5 on the 2nd string. So you can see that when I hit that 7th fret, that's in the major pentatonic scale. So we have... And then from here, we're going to go 6th fret 3rd string. And that's very major sound, right? That's the major 3rd. Back to my 5th fret 2nd string. So we have... You can hear how it started minor, very bluesy. But then, now we've switched to major. Right? It's just a kind of, that's a sort of a B.B. King kind of thing. He does that better than almost anyone, I think. It's just major pentatonic scale, minor pentatonic scale, blending them. Then I hit the open 3rd string and played my E7 chord right here. That's using the C7 shape. If you think of your C chord in 1st position, slide it all the way up so that your ring finger is on the 7th fret 5th string. Play that C chord, but then add that flat 7. So put your pinky down on the, 7th fret 3rd string. Just play the middle 4 strings though. So we have... And then watch this. There's my B7. And I'm just out of the E shape. I'm playing it out of the E shape. I've got my pinky off. So I've got my 7. And then I do a hammer on with my middle finger. That gives it a little bit of a bluesy sound. And then hit that 1 string. So it's down, up, another down. Then back to my E7. Now that's that 5 chord of the 5 chord thing that I talked about in the beginning. I'll put a lesson up on the screen that goes into more detail about what this is. It's called a secondary dominant chord. You're basically borrowing a dominant chord that's not in the key, but it works. When I say it's not in the key, it's not in the key of the song, so it's not in the key of A, but it is a 5 chord for an E. That's the point of confusion. When people get confused, they get confused about that one fact. But just know that any of the chords in your song, and those chords are related, they're in a chord family, in circle of fifths, however you want to think of it, they're all in key. You can take any of those chords and play that chord's 5 chord and then back to it, the chord itself, just to create a nice little extra bit of tension. It's a very cool effect. So when we play that E7, play the B7 and go back to the E7, that's what we're doing. All right, so while we're at this, let's learn one more lick. So we're going to go from that E back to the 1 chord, which is our A. All right, now to get back to the A, this is what I played. So let's look at that lick. It's a half bend here on the 7th fret, 2nd string. You don't want to do a full bend. What I'm doing is I'm starting, think about, I'm in the key of the song. This is where I'm at mentally. I'm thinking about A minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. But when I'm starting here on that 7th fret, I'm starting on the major pentatonic scale, but I'm bending to the minor. I know this is weird, but this is a really common thing that you'll see here in the blues. You'll start here and then you'll bend to this note. And then we're going to do a pull off between the 7th fret and the 5th fret on the 2nd string. And then we're going to come down to the 7th fret, 3rd string. Now we're just going to walk down strings 3, 4, and 5 between the 7th fret and the 5th fret. And so we're just going to bounce right back and forth between those 2 frets. Watch this. See, it's just right down. And then down to the major 3rd. That gives it a major sound, which is the 4th fret, 5th string. So, and then I did that. Instead of going down to the low note, the low A note, I slid into the 7th fret, 4th string to play the higher version of that. That's a great little lick that you can connect to your E shape in whatever key you're in. All right, so that's a lot of information. Let's end this part 1 video right here. Leave a comment below and let me know if you've picked up an idea, a little tip, or if anything's confusing to you, or if you're just enjoying this. I always appreciate the comments. I read all of them and I try and respond to any of the questions that come up. It sort of gives me fuel to know kind of what to do, what's resonating with people and what isn't. So anyway, leave a comment if you haven't and give me a thumbs up. And we'll see you in part 2 where we'll go over the rest of this. And remember, as a premium member, you'd have access to download the tab PDF file and also that on-screen tab viewer, which is interactive. All right, we'll see you in part 2.